This is Force 13 Live. It's 5 o'clock on the East Coast. Good evening. You're looking at Hurricane Matthew, a Category 2 storm on the Saffir-Simpson Hurricane Wind Scale. My name's Nathan Foy. I'm joined by the Skype team. Good evening.
Evening, Nathan, and hi to the others in the studio. And boy, what does one say about Matthew?
Pack studio.
Yeah.
Very bad storm for Haiti.
Oh, he's cut off. That's a good start to the hour. If you've got any comments or questions for us, do let me know. Start your message with Force 13. Hurricane Matthew, Category 2. Does anyone have the hurricane watches and warnings in front of them they'd like to read out at the latest update?
I'll have to bring that up.
I'll get it in that case, because it's right here for me. The latest, a hurricane warning remains in effect for north of Flagler Beach. Sorry, not Flagler Beach, north of Flagler-Volusia County line to Surf City. A hurricane watch for Surf City to Cape Lookout. A tropical storm warning in effect for Volusia-Brevard County line to the Flagler-Volusia County line, north of Surf City to Duck, and Pamlico and Albemarle Sounds. That's where the warnings are, and obviously there'll be lots of flooding concerns as well.
And Nathan, the National Hurricane Centre has a local statements Hurricane Matthew for Tampa Bay, Jacksonville, Wilmington, Atlanta, Newport, Morehead City, Charleston, Melbourne, Florida. So Charleston, Newport.
Oh, you got caught up there by the sounds of things. Okay, interesting comments. Let me just tell you as Stephen posted in the comments, the latest on its intensity. I should read that out. It's 30.2 degrees north, 80.7 degrees west. That's 40 miles east of Jacksonville Beach, 135 miles south of Savannah, Georgia. Sustained winds are 110 miles per hour near the centre, moving north, they say, at 12 miles per hour, so Devon was right, and 948 millibars is its central pressure right now. Is anyone there?
I've been trying to cut in here, but my Skype is... It tried to crash on me no less than 3 times in the past 7 minutes.
Not good.
No.
But you're right, it is moving north, Devon. Yeah.
Well, you pretty much covered everything there in the first 2 or 3 minutes or so.
Oh, well, we can end the
show. It would be nice if we could just end the show there, but unfortunately, we still have very significant effects currently going on in Florida.
Most definitely.
In Florida, Georgia, and South Carolina. Do you have that?
Do I have what?
Do you have the flash flood emergency for the Jacksonville area in Nassau County?
Let's bring the flooding news to the viewers if you're unaware of what's going on right now. Some flash flood warnings. A flash flood emergency for Egan's Creek, Amelia Island. It's a flash flood warning for east central Nassau County in northeastern Florida. That's until 6:45. And that's been in effect since 3:28. It's a flash flood emergency for Jean Lafitte Boulevard, Blackbeard Place, Starboard Landing, Portside Drive, Crosswinds Drive, Ocean Sound Drive, Ocean Bluff Drive, Ocean Oaks Drive north and south, Seagrove Lane, Sadler Road near Egan's Creek, High Rigger Road, Robert Oliver Avenue, Ocean Ridge Drive, and Amelia Terrace Court. It's a particularly dangerous situation. Seek higher ground now if you're in the area. And that's an interesting thing for them to say, Devon, to seek higher ground immediately, because it's a hurricane here, and
yes,
normally you'd advise against going out, but this takes precedent.
Yes, hurricane force winds, at least gusts, are currently being reported in Jacksonville. Sustained winds might also be occurring there. So they're basically stuck in limbo right now. If you're underneath this flash flood emergency and you're located in this flash flood emergency and you need to get to higher ground, please, by all means, do so. Just do so very carefully and very mindfully. Stay away from tall buildings if you're going to evacuate. I wouldn't use a car because that would probably be pushed like mad in the hurricane. So I definitely wouldn't do it by car. And when you reach your appropriate higher ground, please take shelter in a public building or a relative's house or something, because you do not want to be outside in this storm at all.
Okay, some questions. What is a tropical warning? Maybe they mean a tropical storm warning, but
Okay.
how do people differentiate?
Well, yes. So there's this watch and warning system that was brilliantly devised by the National Hurricane Center back in the 1970s, I believe it was. It pretty much goes a little bit like this. A tropical storm or hurricane warning is issued when tropical storm or hurricane force conditions are either likely or imminent in the next day and a half or 36 hours. A tropical storm or hurricane watch is issued when tropical storm or hurricane conditions are likely, not necessarily imminent or extremely possible, but less possible, likely to occur in the next 2 days. So the time frame for the watches are a little bit more, and usually watches are issued when there's a lot of uncertainty about where the tropical storm and hurricane force wind fields line up on the coasts and whatnot. So that's usually when they issue the watches. And if you're underneath the tropical storm warning or hurricane warning, it doesn't necessarily guarantee that you will see tropical storm or hurricane force conditions, but that those conditions are very likely to happen, and you should be preparing for those conditions.
Okay, well that was a very fleshed out answer. Electric Blue wants to know if we have any tips about being a meteorologist.
Basically get experience.
Professionalism.
I think that is important. I mean, personally, I don't describe myself as a meteorologist in any way. I'm more of a broadcaster. I don't know about everyone else in the room. But having seen these storms for 5 years, I sort of have a decent idea, you know. I'd like to think so. That's people usually say that I do, generally, over what the storm's going to do. And, you know, everyone can be wrong at times, even the most experienced of meteorological people. But, you know, we know, we have a general idea of what's going on and what we should be prioritizing in our coverage to you, at least. I think it may have gone off on one slightly there. Anyway.
I'm a weatherman. And to answer your tips of a meteorologist, go to a right college. That will help you out on stuff like that. I would actually like to know what kind of profession of meteorology, because there's different areas. You can be a National Weather Service meteorologist. You could be a studio meteorologist at TVs. You could be storm chasers. I mean, there's all kinds of variations on that. So I would actually like more clarification, because I am on that road as well too. So I'd like to help you out on that.
Okay.
What's the guy's name on the chat?
Oh, it's gone by now so far. I can't find it now. Oh, that's my phone. How about it?
And whilst Nathan is taking that call, just a reminder, there are ways that one can get involved with Force 13. We have the website, we have the Skype, For those that have got Twitter, you can follow Force 13 on that platform. We have 2 Facebook pages, Force 13, and we have Force 13 International. And for me personally, I'm over here on the east coast of Australia, and Jason, who is our technical expert, he's over on the west coast of Australia. And between Jason and I and young Lachlan Still, who's one of our new members, we will be, along with others, activating the Force 13 Australian New Zealand channel as from the 1st of November, when that is the start of the 2016-17 tropical cyclone period.
Okay, I'm back. There's the latest radar, and I was listening a little bit to what David was saying there. At the moment, there's no new news as far as I'm aware, unless anyone's got some with them right now.
I'll check
Nothing.
Twitter.
The Berkeley Electric Cooperative Incorporation, as this was 2 hours ago, as of 3 p.m. local time, that energy company will be de-energising the substations that power Kaiawa and Seabrook Islands. This is a safety the procedure due to the storm surge and protect the equipment.
And in case you're thinking of travelling, just looking at the traffic reports, I can tell you that at least 2 of the main bridges to Jacksonville Beach are closed. I assume the others may be as well, because obviously that's going to be treacherous. And of course the I-295 over St. John's River is also closed over the bridge. And I think the bridges near the centre of Jacksonville are still open, however. At least one of them is.
And Nathan, the North Carolina Emergency Management have put out a message about 45 minutes ago. Crews from across the Triad are gathering message boards for use in NENC to alert travellers of weather-related road closures. So the road warnings. Okay.
I'm able to see cameras along I-95 coming into Jacksonville. The road is open, it would appear, but as most people are heeding the warnings, and I've only seen 1 car go by so far in the centre of Jacksonville, so no one's on the roads.
That is a good thing to hear.
Indeed. And it's very wet, spray all over the place. No signs of flooding on the major routes by the looks of things, but it's getting a big drenching over there.
And one observation for anyone that may venture into the flood water, especially the salt water. Once you've got the salt water in your vehicle, it starts that rusting process, and I wouldn't be travelling anywhere.
Okay, Joey says the wind in Marion County where I live is 26 miles an hour. I can go outside, right? Well,
I would suggest at least staying outside until winds, not necessarily the wind speed, but the wind gusts dip below. Yes, stay inside. My bad. Do not go outside until the wind gusts at least dip below tropical storm intensity.
It's just common sense at the moment. If you've got no reason to go out, don't.
Yes. That's pretty much the prime rule. if you got no reason to go out,
Don't go out just to see how the weather is. You know.
Don't go outside to be like, oh, I want to see what 80-mile-per-hour winds feels like, because that's how people get struck with flying debris out in the streets, and unfortunately, that usually coincides with death. So we don't want any of that.
Just picking up on the latest advisory by the National Hurricane Warning Centre on Matthew. What does one say about the forecast track and cone?
Well, we did cover that just before the hour, and it's not changed all that much. The biggest question, I guess, is whether it will make a landfall in the US or not.
Well, look at the area. What is it? The future track. It's attempting a south-southwest track.
Eventually, after it loops around the Carolinas, it will end up going in that direction. Yes. You got a bit of crackle there as well, David.
Yes, I.
If you've got any questions for us, send them in. Start your message with Force 13, Devon.
Yes. Rainfall is expected to be very, very heavy in along the Georgia coast, South Carolina, North Carolina. Up to a foot of rain is expected along the coast.
And you look at that there, Devon. I just want to point out, it briefly looked like when it was near Palm Coast that it could be moving towards land, and indeed was probably. And the eye must have been only a few miles off the coast there, and now definitely moving away.
Yeah, it looked like that. Yeah, it was going to try to come ashore there, and it tried its best, and it just missed. And hopefully that continues to happen.
And the forecasting's not been too bad, has it, from the National Hurricane Center on this?
No, absolutely not. I think the forecasting has been absolutely terrific from National Hurricane Center, from Force 13, from other sources as well. This storm has been very well predicted. Some people will go out and say that, oh, they overhyped the storm. No, the warnings are put out. They were adequate for the storm, at least I feel that they were sufficient for the storm. And I think that this has been pretty much called right on the money ever since it formed, and it's continuing to be so. The only thing that it really got wrong, at least the long-term forecast, was the long-term intensity forecasts, and those are usually inaccurate anyways, but the track has been spot on.
We've got a specific question, and we've got some more general questions as well. Random Grenade says, any clue on how bad Myrtle Beach and Conway, South Carolina could get? Well, they're under warnings, I know that, and possible flooding?
Yes. As far as Myrtle Beach, they are underneath a hurricane warning. What was the other place that they said that they were? Conway, South Carolina?
I think it's inland slightly.
Yes, Conway. One of my friends has some relatives up in Conway, South Carolina, and she's rather concerned about them. So
it's quite close to Myrtle Beach, actually.
Yep.
But there is a flood warning
in that area.
There is a flood warning in Conway right now.
Okay, well, there's a flood warning in Conway right now. I don't know if you have access to that right now, Nathan, but I will take a look at it.
All I can say is that there's a flood warning where flooding is expected in the area, probably the river around it.
I will try to get into the actual advisory for Conway.
Some more general questions. I don't think you'll see Conway mentioned by name, by the way, but more general questions. Is there any storms in the Atlantic that could turn into a hurricane? Right now, Nicole might try again, but it doesn't look like we'll see a hurricane anywhere in the next 5 days, apart from Matthew.
Okay. I was able to find the flood warning. It's not necessarily in Conway by name here, as Nathan said, but the National Weather Service in Wilmington, North Carolina has issued a flood warning for the following rivers in North and South Carolina. Cape Fear at William O. Husk Lock in Dam 3, affecting Bladen County. Cape Fear, again, northeast of Cape Fear. Let's see, is there... Okay, here's Waccamaw at... Here we go. Waccamaw at Conway, affecting Horry County. So that's the flood warning that is currently out for Conway, is the Waccamaw River, I'm going to assume, at Conway, affecting Horry County. And flooding, forecast flooding from minor to major severity for the following rivers. Lumber near Lumberton, affecting Robeson County. It should say that for the flood warning at Waccamaw and Conway, flood stage is at 11 feet. The river is currently at 8.95 feet. Major flooding is forecast. The river is expected to surge up to 16 feet, which is 5 feet above flood stage.
All right, thank you. More questions. In the 5-day forecast, why does the track turn sharply? That's probably a natural question to ask.
Yeah, well, basically there's going to be two things affecting how Matthew's moving. Both of them are going to push it south. First thing, you have Hurricane Nicole to its east. Hurricane Nicole's going to want to lift north. And since Hurricane Nicole, well, Tropical Storm Nicole now, and Hurricane Matthew are going to interact a little bit, they're going to want to almost orbit around each other like a binary star system almost. You're going to see Nicole shoot up to the north, and Matthew's going to want to shoot down to the south. Also, there's expected to be a rather strong blocking ridge of high pressure building to the north of this system. That's also going to want to bring the storm to the south.
Okay. Why does the lower pressure mean a stronger storm? I've never understood that. And before you answer that question, someone else wants to confirm whether it's a Category 2 or Category 3. It's Category 2 now, winds of 110 miles per hour.
Okay, so probably the best way to explain this is that the wind speed has a direct relationship to how quickly the pressure changes within the storm according to distance. So that's known as a pressure gradient. And the tighter that the pressure gradient is, the stronger the winds are going to be. And lower pressures create those tighter pressure gradients, which lead to higher winds. That's probably the best answer I can give without getting into Calc 3 kind of stuff.
Okay, let's see. What else do we have? David,
okay, Red Cross blood PJ Hurricane Matthew is now impacting blood donation supplies on the East Coast. They are urging anyone to help them out. So that's from the Red Cross. However, the A1A highway or road in Flagler.
Yes, I've seen pictures of that. It's horribly eroded.
Yep, and that road is now out of action.
Road.
And the erosion, the road's just been completely chewed by the mountainous the sea, so that road will be out of action for some time.
People want to know about fatalities in Florida. I don't know if anyone's got any information.
They're not gonna release. They're not gonna start surveying for fatalities in Florida probably at least until tomorrow for Southern Florida, and probably it won't be until Sunday until a preliminary estimate for fatalities released in northern Florida.
Sparrow wants to know whether it's been speeding up or slowing down in forward motion. I can tell you that it's been around the same pretty much since the Bahamas, northernmost Bahamas, would you say?
Yeah, pretty much the same. The storm is expected to slow down ever so gradually as it moves up the coast, however.
One of our team members just briefly speculates that the fatality count may be 2 according to publications on Twitter, but that's unsubstantiated at this time.
Yeah, I saw another thing saying 3, so... Yeah.
Hello, Strat.
Hey.
David, did you want to come back there?
Yes, as I said a few earlier, the information on the Twitter platform is increasing. Power outages are mounting and storm surge risk is still high from Florida to North Carolina. However, the Port Miami tunnel is now closed.
What now?
The Port Miami tunnel is closed. I'm just looking at a traffic sign overhead. So the tunnel to or the Port Miami tunnel, it's closed. I don't know how long that one's been closed for.
I'm assuming that is in Miami and not some name, even though it's nothing to do with
Yeah,
in Miami. Yeah.
It must have been closed for some time. It would have closed.
It connects Miami out to the Barrier Island chain.
That's right, that's what I thought it was, and I saw that actually it was closed when we were streaming 2 days ago, so yeah, it's been closed since the storm came.
And parking lots in Brunswick are filling up with white caps.
Okay.
Well, that's not good.
Yeah. Someone asked, have estimates in Haiti for the death toll increased yet, or are they leveled out for now?
They are definitely going to continue to increase. They're not going to level out anytime soon. The latest that we know is that the death toll. The latest that we know is that the death toll is around 850, and that's coming from a tweet from a task force in Haiti that's currently dealing with the situation.
Yeah.
And it is still true that they can't truly access all the Tiburon Peninsula yet, correct?
No, they're not going to be, like I said earlier, it's going to take probably 2, 3, 4 weeks. I mean, the Cayman Islands can send 1,000 boats of aid their way, and it's still going to take a very long time to survey the island because basically the capital of Haiti has no way of supporting the Tiburon Peninsula. It's completely severed off from any kind of contact from the rest of Haiti, which is bad news, obviously. If aid can't get to them, we're going to have people dying from a cholera outbreak because of unsafe water.
I would have heard rumblings of that.
Yeah.
Especially because
I have seen reports of that. People apparently dying due to starvation may also happen as well. So the death toll is not going to level out anytime soon.
Yep. And someone asking if the temperature in Spay was asking that she's noticed that the temperature in her area, she lives in Florida. I think I'm pretty sure she was impacted, has been decreasing. She's asking if that has anything to do with Matthew.
And Nathan, I've got breaking news from Australia. I know the main attention is what's happening over in the States. It's been reported by Channel 7 News Melbourne, which is part of the National Channel 7 network. Wild winds are expected to lash Victoria this weekend as towns along the Victoria-New South Wales border prepare for floods and just further floods. And the states of Victoria, New South Wales, South Australia, Tasmania, they have seen records broken, records established. So Florida isn't and the Caribbean region, Haiti, they're not the only ones that are experiencing severe weather. And the National Hurricane Centre in Atlantic Operations, The 5 p.m. Friday prototype storm surge warning extends from Florida to North Carolina.
Okay, Sparrow wants to know what's the difference between a flash flood and a storm surge. In this instance, probably nothing. Is that right?
Yeah, nothing.
But typically, if there's a flash
flooding
flood,
is actually caused by storm surge.
this one in particular, but quite often it can be due to heavy rains if it's not hurricane related.
Basically, the difference between a regular flood and a flash flood, it's not much, but a flash flood is something that rises very quickly and it also goes away very quickly, but that is almost always associated with fast-moving water, very destructive. Meanwhile, a regular flood warning is more of a gradual rise of a river and a gradual descent of the level of a river. So that's usually the distinction between the two.
More questions. Are hurricanes, typhoons and cyclones retired because of their strength, damage or costs? And the answer is any or all of those things.
Well, Patricia was retired on intensity alone, so I mean, obviously storms are retired due to intensity.
Typhoon Tip wasn't.
Well, that was back in 1979.
Yeah.
I didn't know that they retired names.
But
back
what you
then
will
in the West
notice is that
Pacific.
there is quite a lot of inconsistencies with retirements.
Yes.
And someone, Timur SGS asked, do you think the Hurricane Matthew's intensity and unpredictability has to do with the phenomena La Nina?
Well,
I would say it's the phenomena of neither La Nina or El Nino.
yes,
Yep.
because we're not really necessarily in a La Nina unless you count a little tiny square off the coast of the Galapagos Islands as La Nina.
The Atlantic is above average, that's for sure.
Yeah, the entire Atlantic is above average. A good majority of the East Pac is above average. And a pretty good majority of the West Pacific is above average as well, if I remember correctly.
And
So, if anything, this year is acting more like an El Nino than a La Nina, at least sea surface temperature-wise.
Yeah, but not in other factors, because you'd have so much dry air and shear, the storms wouldn't form in an El Nino
I would
Atlantic,
say,
but never mind. That's the technical
yeah,
stuff.
I would say also in terms of the unpredictability, I'm pretty sure someone, it wasn't, I don't think any of us mentioned it like a day or two ago, that there was a strong solar flare off of the sun that kind of helped rapidly intensify Matthew and Chapa, if I'm not mistaken.
Ooh, I would be very careful about that strat.
Yeah.
Solar flares do not bring with them temperature, but rather they bring with them ionized particles, and that has to deal with the very, very upper levels of the Earth's atmosphere and the ionosphere and magnetosphere
Here we go,
of
getting
the
technical.
Earth. That doesn't have any.
yeah, too technical.
That doesn't have any relationship with sea surface temperatures.
Interesting, though, nonetheless. It is a bit of a coincidence.
But what I will say on what we've been discussing in the last 2 minutes, Force 13 Climate Show, which is hosted by Lee Barrett, we will have a look at that issue, and it might even be a topic that Nathan and I could bring forward to our debate 13. That's also in the pipeline, timing yet to be finalised, but the technical discussion, it's always welcome. Now, Nathan, you have my screen share up. That is the latest.
We'll do in a
on
minute.
the
No, I'm not seeing anything yet.
Storm
Sorry.
surge warning area. Now,
I'm not seeing anything at the moment, I'm afraid.
haven't got anything. All right.
Something I noticed with the storm, although it's weakening in terms of wind strength, is back down to 110 miles an hour. It does look like, oddly enough, the minimum pressure is still staying very low.
We got it now, David.
Okay, that is the area now under the. I'm not sure whether this is a experimental.
It's
product?
prototype, they say.
Yes, so that's the area for the storm surge warning area. So, north of Orlando, right up along the coast. But as we know, Jacksonville is being hit hard by the storm surge,
Well,
and then
St.
we've
John's
got
River is the concern right now because
yes.
pretty much at this time it is the worst point apparently, and we might get information out of there at some point. I don't know.
I'll see what's happening on the Twitter.
Okay.
Looking at the prototype storm surge potential map, it does look like Jacksonville does have some areas of 9+ feet, or at least the coastal area of the metropolitan region. But most of it's 6+ feet at this point, which is better than what we were seeing last night. But many other areas in Georgia and South Carolina are still looking at potentially 9+ feet of storm surge.
And just picking up on Strat's comments, welcome to St. Augustine, a beach sign underwater.
Where?
St. Augustine,
Okay,
beach sign underwater.
Electric Blue says, does a La Nina weaken or strengthen tropical cyclones? It didn't seem to have any effect on Super Typhoon Moranti. You can't really look at it that way, can you, Devon? Or Strat?
Can you repeat the question really
The
quick?
question was, does a La Nina weaken or strengthen tropical cyclones?
Oh boy, that is a very technical can of worms. Directly, no. Directly, no. Through indirect and combined statistics, yes. But for any one particular storm, no.
And just to reiterate, a La Nina is when sea surface temperatures in the equatorial regions are below average, and El Nino is the opposite when they are above average, and typically they result in common climatical conditions around the world that corresponds with those with that circumstance.
Nathan's, I hate interrupting, but I have developing news from the southern hemisphere region, but more particularly to the southwest of Indonesia. Jason, who will be getting into first gear as from the 1st of November. Jason and I will be operating the Force 13 Australia-New Zealand channel, as I said. It's now being reported the Western Australian region has begun what is likely to be a pretty active 2016-17 tropical cyclone season. Last week, there was an out-of-season tropical low near Christmas Island. It pushed moisture right across Australia and fed that moisture into a strong southern Australian polar low. That polar low saw massive records, many records set, and completely knocked out the entire electricity system for the state of South Australia.
Yeah, made news. That wasn't long ago, was it?
And 18 tornadoes were reported, I think, within less than a 24-hour period. And due to this polar low pressure system, wave heights above 30 feet along the southern coastline of Adelaide, South Australia, and it actually set, or it was a 1.5 century weather event. And Jason has picked up on a publication. We are expected to see a tropical low forming within just in the northwest of WA this week. So I've
Yes.
been, I've had this feeling that the Australian scene, we are going to see an early start to the tropical
All right.
cyclone season here.
We've got more questions and comments. Fairly Cope says, I'm approximately 345 miles from Jacksonville. The outer bands are over my house in north central South Carolina. That's much less than a 700-mile radius, they say. Has Matthew lost its mass?
Well, not necessarily, no. I don't know where they were getting a 700-mile radius from.
Maybe the news.
That's news to me. I've never heard anything about a 700-mile radius or even a 700-mile diameter. Matthew's been a very small storm, if anything, its entire duration. And
Now you would say it's probably about average sized.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would probably say average, because the hurricane force wind field did increase dramatically yesterday. If it wasn't for that hurricane force wind field extension, Jacksonville probably wouldn't be receiving hurricane force winds right now.
Wow.
But it does appear, just taking a look at this on radar, seeing here, it starts
we're
moving
seeing it.
and maybe starting to move a little east of north already. Maybe it's just a little wobble in the eye. That's also a possibility.
Ooh, that's...
But the latest frame, or I would probably say the latest 6 or 7 frames in that image have it just moving east of
That's
north now.
interesting. And the eye walls
Yeah.
seem to do the same thing as well.
Yes.
Alright, we got some more questions, I believe. Or do we? If Nicole got her act together, something... Oh, I've just lost it. If Nicole got her act as she moved south into warmer waters, could it hit Florida after Matthew? No.
Could Nicole hit Florida?
Yeah.
No. I'm gonna rate that as a less than 1% chance.
Less than 1% chance, there you go.
And my personal position, Matthew, we can't, no one can take their eyes off Matthew. All warnings that are released to the public need to be followed. So with what is happening with Matthew, the threat is not over.
I better get through some more questions. There's a few here. Which tropical system had the highest recorded millibars? Difficult question.
Highest?
Okay, that's an interesting one. If he means highest pressure, what's the highest pressure ever recorded by a TD? I think it was 1019 millibars.
Oh, something crazy.
1018, 1019, something
Yeah,
like that.
That's an interesting... It's a nice question, but we'd have to talk about that for a good 10 minutes. 10 minutes that we can't afford to have, I'm afraid. Finn Painter says, got any information on St. Augustine at the moment?
Oh, I've got St. Augustine on the radar. I can take a look and see what the current conditions are right now. Not by opening a new tab.
I think they had reported wind gusts of... I think they recorded wind gusts of 85 miles an hour earlier.
Yeah.
And the St. Augustine beach sign is underwater.
Speaking
I
of
don't know
underwater,
how far above the
do
ground
we?
that is, but yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of underwater, do we know if that dock that we saw in that cam in St. Lucie last night is still above water, or
I
is that
saw it this
down
morning, and it was blurred, but it still appeared to be above water. I couldn't tell, and it was difficult to discern, but it may have gone briefly underwater during the night. The scale of that camera was a bit difficult to look at as well, and if you watch all our live stream is archived right now, and if you saw some of our coverage this morning when we first started 10-11 o'clock Eastern time, I took you to another camera at Fort Pierce, and it looked like on the shoreline, not the shoreline, but the what's the word, the embankment sort of thing, there's a word for it, I can't remember, but you know, it's almost like a pier, but it's made out of rocks. But that had been, it looked like there was a high water mark a bit further down, and I would suggest there may have been maybe a 5 or 6 foot surge above normal in that location with my untrained eye. But more questions. Any chance the eye wall will redevelop this close to the coast? In normal circumstances, it could have been possible, but with wind shear, probably not, Devon.
Yeah, this storm's only going to. I'll actually pull up the graphic here because that might actually be interesting to look at.
Okay.
I've been showing nothing but radar and visible satellite imagery, so let's take a look at a really cool, colorful graphic. So, wind shear tendency, and you can clearly see to the north of the storm. Obviously, it's weakening around the storm, but the shear has increased over the center of the storm, and that's the main issue. You can definitely see it for Nicole as well, also in a weakening zone for shear. And as long as this continues, both of these systems are going to have a very hard time getting to hurricane strength, maintaining hurricane strength.
And fortunately, Matthew's also going to be moving into stronger shear as well as it moves to the north and east of north as well.
Yep. So shear is going to get entrained in the system, and that's going to hopefully weaken it rather significantly. But regardless of how strong the storm is, and this is actually one of those storms where I think the wind speed is almost, I don't want to say it's completely, but the wind speed is almost irrelevant, especially as we move further up the coast, because the biggest threats from the storm is obviously going to be the wind shear and the very heavy rain that's expected along the Georgia, South, and North Carolina coasts.
Is it possible for a tropical cyclone to strengthen somewhat on land? All these questions coming out.
Take a look at Tropical Storm Faye of 2008 or Hurricane Katrina of 2005, both of which intensified while moving across the Florida Peninsula. So, yeah, it is definitely possible.
Who came up
it
with
happens
this?
Over here on Australia. We had that polar low. It actually deepened overland and it moved off the coast, so I would support that.
Yes, likely with tropical storms, however. Sparrow says, who came up with the scale to measure hurricanes?
Me. No, but seriously though, 2 people came together and called, I don't remember their actual names, but their last name
and Simpson.
Yeah. And they came up with basically this 1 to 5 scale that is supposed to be used after the Beaufort wind scale to determine how much damage the wind will cause from a hurricane. And this was created, I think, in the mid-1970s.
Something like that. I think
so
it was the early 70s.
This wasn't around when Camille existed.
That's interesting, though.
I think there wasn't any notion of Cat 4s or Cat 5s in the 60s. I think
there's a hurricane coming.
Yeah, that's what they knew. They were like, hurricane coming, get out. And now we've got these 5 different appropriated categories.
Okay, is it possible for the power to go out in Marion Oaks? Well, I'd suggest in that area, near Ocala, I believe. Probably not if it's not out already. So, because they're getting almost into the clear now. Would you suggest?
I'd like to point out something that I saw. I just wanted to check the tornado risk. There's actually tornado watches in 7 counties in South Carolina right now.
Read them out. We've not done that for a while.
In Southeast Carolina, the Beaufort County, Berkeley County, Charleston County, Colton County, Dorchester County, Hampton County, and Jasper County. All the cities in those areas are included.
Electric Blue wants to know, does Typhoon Tip still hold the record for the lowest pressure? Yes, it does. AP Weatherman says, what was the most destructive hurricane or storm in your lifetime? in all of our lifetimes, if you go for monetary damages, the answer's Katrina, but I don't know.
I would argue Cyclone Nargis.
That was very destructive indeed.
At least for what I've been through, I'd say Sandy.
Sandy was bad, but if you want to talk about on a
that's personally just because of what I've been through.
Nargis.
Yeah, I'm just saying personally because that's the worst storm I've been through. I know that storm shut down New York City. The battery tunnel was out of commission for over 3 months.
We got 85-mile-per-hour sustained winds in our backyard.
I have this question from Electric Blue. Which is worse to be in a tropical cyclone, the eye wall or the gusts?
Well, the eye wall is going to create the strongest gusts in the storm. So obviously the eye wall is the worst place to be in the storm. That's where the very strongest of the strong winds are contained within a hurricane.
Bill Adams says, do you think Savannah will have major flooding?
Yes.
Yes, I'll support that because as I said to you...
I don't like saying definites, but this is really looking like a case just like Jacksonville and St. Augustine, right?
On top of that,
yeah.
On top of that, they are under storm surge warning. Sorry to interrupt there.
Yep. Nope, that's fine. They're also on me.
I've got to interrupt as well, I'm afraid, because there's a flash flood warning for Savannah, Georgia right now.
Oh, that's new.
And,
that confirms what we've just been saying. And Sparrow, you've asked about the hurricane was going north and the St. John's flow north. Does that have any effect on a storm surge? Storm surge will impact on the river.
Devon, that's a big area in the flash flood warning right now.
Oh, I see it too. Oh, good lord. That extends for half of Georgia, pretty much. Half of the Georgia coast. Okay, so the National Weather Service in Charleston has issued a flash flood warning for the following counties: Chatham County in southeastern Georgia, Liberty County in southeastern Georgia, Long County in southeastern Georgia, Bryan County in southeastern Georgia, and McIntosh County in southeastern Georgia, and the following counties in South Carolina: Beaufort and Jasper counties. Until 9:45 p.m. on the East Coast, Doppler radar indicates that very heavy rain associated with Matthew is moving onshore. The combination of heavy rain and high tides from the storm will produce flash flooding. Some locations that can experience this include Savannah, Hilton Head Island, Hinesville, Pooler, Bluffton, Beaufort, Port Royal, and Richmond Hill. 3 to 5 inches of rain are possible in the next few hours.
And I'm looking at the same text as you right now, and interesting to note the language. It says that the increasing tides will produce flash flooding, not might, but will.
Yes.
Yeah, I can actually show the potential prototype storm surge map right now just to get a scope of what's possible with the flash flooding. I'm zoomed in specifically on Savannah. That's the biggest metropolitan area. Even near the core of the city. Oh,
it's that old chestnut. There's something wrong with you, Strat. It never works, I'm afraid.
Oh, wait, it's not even giving me the option to share screens.
Oh dear, must be something to do with connections.
No, I think it's because someone's face camming. Yeah, but just to give a scope, even near the core of Savannah, there's still a large swath of areas of 6+ feet and even some 9+ feet areas.
Okay.
Worst will definitely be along the coast, though. That's a huge area of 9+ feet. Actually, right leading up into Wilmington Park, not necessarily into it, but definitely its vicinity.
There's some interesting questions coming in at the moment.
And thanks, Lucy, for hers.
Yes, the hurricane was going north and the St. Johns River flows north. Does that have any effect on the storm surge?
Well, it could, because what that will do is if it's blowing north, the hurricane's moving north, and it depends on where the wind's blowing. But if the hurricane's blowing south, like with the St. Johns River is, I'm imagining that's the river that is currently underneath the flash flood warning, or at least one of the tributaries.
Yes.
Right now, the winds are blowing southward across that river, and what that's basically going to do, what that can do, is that can push the storm surge backwards, down, up the river, I should say, backwards up St. John's River.
One or two people sort of replying to the question that we had earlier about the worst storm you've experienced in your lifetime. Someone's saying that the worst storm they'd been through was Gaston in 2004 that pummeled Richmond, Virginia.
Oh, that's interesting.
That is interesting. I wouldn't have thought of that, first of all.
And Nathan, back to the fast-flowing information on Twitter. National Weather Service just linked up to their Twitter account. The National Weather Service Eastern Region, as we know, Matthew, now Category 2 with winds 110 miles per hour. However, threats from water, storm surge and heavy rain, flash flooding growing. So that's from the National Weather Service Eastern Region.
Alright, I know you guys have a lot to say, but we're going to take a short break now and we'll talk more in the next hour. We'll take more questions, keep them coming. We've had a lot to answer in this hour, and I'm sure there'll be more to come in the next hour. Live coverage continues on Hurricane Matthew at Force 13 Live. Back in a few.